The country of Russia is very large. With a landmass of 10.6 million square miles, it stands as the largest country on the planet. It spans over the continents of Europe and Asia. Siberia is the Asian part of the country, which is mostly cold, uninhabited and far from its capital Moscow. It covers 77% of the country's area but only contains 25% of its population. Its easternmost city, Vladivostok, is 5,600 miles away from Moscow. This is more than 3 times the distance from San Francisco to New York, or nearly the same distance from the northernmost to the southernmost tip on the continent of Africa. This is the reason Siberian cities are one of the most remote in the world. All that connects Siberia to the rest of Russia is the Trans-Siberian Railways, which not only links the entire nation but also connects the country to its neighbors Mongolia and China. In the 19th century, the main source of transportation to Siberia was by rivers, which were only accessed for 5 months of the year. During these 5 months, steamboats were the most reliable source of transportation. For the rest of the year, the rivers were frozen and the transportation was mostly performed by animal-drawn sledges and carts. These transportation methods would carry a limited amount of goods and took weeks and months before arriving at their destination. Long distance from the capital also made the Pacific coast of the empire open to enemy invasions, because it would take months to receive official orders and supplies from the capital. All these conditions drove the Russian Empire to build a reliable network of railway along Siberia and to the Pacific coast. The construction began in 1891 from Moscow and Vladivostok toward the central Siberia. From the eastern Pacific side, the railway was built inside the Chinese-controlled Manchuria. Because the Russian territory was mostly uneven and contained many bodies of water. Despite the harsh geography, the railway was constructed at the speed of more than 450 miles per year and was finally completed in 1904. After the Russian defeat in the Russo-Japanese War, the Russians feared that the Japanese forces might occupy Manchuria and would seize the railway line. This is why an alternative longer route was planned which would connect Moscow to Vladivostok completely inside the Russian borders. The construction continued for another 12 years and was formally completed in 1916 during the World War I, which was then used by the White Army of the Russian Empire. It took a total of 100,000 men to construct the line. However, cheap materials were used during the construction due to the weak economy of the empire at the time. For example, in some places wood was used instead of steel and iron because of the high cost of transportation from the west. Despite all these difficulties, the Trans-Siberian Railway is one of the most spectacular projects of all time. It increased the length of Russian railways from just 1,000 miles in the late 1860s to 45,000 miles in 1917. The line connected Europe to the Pacific Ocean and played a huge role in the immigration of peasants from western Russia to Siberia. Only between 1906 and 1914, 4 million peasants arrived in Siberia, and the population of the area grew by 73%. The area began to produce and export agricultural products to Europe and western Russia. Siberian cities such as Norilsk, Irkutsk and Vladivostok emerged as the highly industrialized centers in all of Russia. Nearly 100 years later, the railway serves the same purpose of connecting Europe to the Asian Pacific coast. Today, the shortest journey from Moscow to Vladivostok takes only 6 days and 13 hours and passes through 10 time zones and 87 different towns and cities. From the border with Mongolia, the railway enters to the Mongolian capital Ulaanbaatar, and then it continues to the Chinese capital Beijing, where it becomes the Chinese Eastern Railway. Thanks to this massive project, Russia now has the second largest railway network in the world, only behind the US railways. With more than 250,000 containers passing through the line each year, it exports more than 30% of the Russian goods to the markets of Mongolia and China. It is not only an economic trend but also a tourist attraction. Passengers can experience the unique beauty of Russia, China and Mongolia all while paying just a few $100s. Tens of thousands of people travel on the train every year, with the most of people traveling domestically. The Russian government plans to invest $10 billion to boost tourism to the Russian Far Eastern region. The future of the railways looks even more ambitious, with the Japanese government proposing to build a bridge from Vladivostok to Japan, which will extend the line more than ever before. But for now, we will leave it on time. So guys, thank you for watching, keep supporting me and keep watching my videos.